Hello and welcome to Business Reporter's Improving Business Performance campaign. I'm Alistair Greener. The term Internet of Things is more than 20 years old, and yet IoT is still far from reaching its full potential in a range of industries. Why the slow rate of change? When can we expect to reach the tipping point where IoT starts to deliver the massive transformation that's been promised for so long? Our guest today, Senthil Ravindran, Executive Vice President at Virtusa. He argues that we are just about to reach that inflection point, and that AI and machine learning will play a crucial role in the scaling of IoT. Good morning.
Good morning, Alistair.
Now, IoT has been around for a few years now. Has it delivered on its promise so far?
To some extent, Alistair, I would say it has delivered its promises, but whether it has created a significant impact, I think the answer is not yet. Things have changed. Of late, if you had observed the advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and then what's happening around 5G, edge computing, and then the security at a API level and so on and so forth. Now this is becoming much more secure environment to operate on. I think now the AI and then a combination of IoT is really taking off well.
How do they enable or enhance IoT?
IoT sensor by itself doesn't mean much. It generates tons and tons of data. So just to give you an example, imagine a factory, a manufacturing factory, where we are taking temperatures about a motor. So the temperature sensor sends information at a second level or even at a microsecond level. This generates terabytes and petabytes of data. So what do we do with this terabytes and petabytes of data? Second thing is, if you imagine or if you compound the problem with the information from our humidity sensors, information about vibrations and so on and so forth, suddenly you are having to operate with petabytes of data and then understand what's going through the entire petabytes of data. So that is where the machine learning really comes into picture. So machine learning and then a combination of big data processing gives you an ability to go through massive amount of data, correlate with variables. In our example, let's say I can correlate temperature of the motor with the past failure rates, and I will be able to predict when this machine is likely to fail, right? Then so that I can procure enough supply of spare parts and then ensure the production doesn't stop. So the key and then very important point is, how do I process vast amount of data from IoT? How do I process this data and then predict a business outcome? That's all about the game now.
What are the typical use cases of AI in IoT?
So there are several use cases, and probably I would say three of my favorite use cases are: one, remote healthcare. Imagine a person with very limited access to the healthcare sitting in a remote corner of the world. Now, if you can send him medical devices, medical IoT devices, and then start getting him into a platform, AI/ML platform, now suddenly he has the same level of access like any other privileged person, right? The second thing is, in a manufacturing setup, let's say especially pharma manufacturing, vaccine means, or availability of vaccine means saving lives. So any fault occurring in a manufacturing factory due to even whatever smaller reason, if that can be predicted, if that can be prevented, then we have a massive improvement to the lives. The third use case that I would say is around worker safety. Imagine people working at let's say 98th floor in Manhattan, and imagine any wind blowing up, or imagine a wrong posture. So now if you are able to use IoT and then get information and then give them an alert, let's say a triggered alert, then we are making them safe.
Where does Virtusa come into the picture? I mean, how do you help?
So Virtusa is a digital engineering specialist with a very, very deep industry focus on three domains. We do banking and financial services, healthcare, life sciences, tech, and then high tech. These are the three things that we do really, really well. And how do we really help our customers is, especially in the context of AI and then IoT journey, we help them identify the business cases, with our playbooks. Second thing is we help them with our accelerators, which are pre-trained models, which are pre-built for ready deployment. The third thing is the data engineering, which takes roughly about 60 to 80% of the time in a AI IoT product, completely reduced or drastically reduced.
Can you explain the process of how you implement this for a client?
So that typically the process has, I would say, three parts, Alistair, when I talk about AI and then IoT. A, in a customer journey or in a manufacturing journey where you are going to create an impact. B, a technical job of, really handcrafting the model. C, taking it to the production in an explainable way.
Now, there are several companies in the IoT space. So what sets Virtusa apart from the rest?
Our approach is very, very customer focused. When I say customer focused, we focus about the customer journeys, and then we try to see how it can be made much more intelligent. In summary, very deep digital engineering expertise with a customer centricity, and then we achieve this customer centricity by eliminating the frictions that they will solve. So we help them identify with our playbook. We help them build with our pre-trained models, accelerators. We help them with our data engineering approach, which takes enormous amount of time.
Okay, so can you give us an example of a client you've helped to achieve its IoT goals using AI?
One of the examples that is closest to my heart is the place where we have helped our customer to build a worker safety platform. The worker safety platform gathers using wearable belts and then other IoT devices information about the worker's condition, their postures, and other things. This operates 5 times better than or 5 times faster than the comparable options. That is another significant part. So once this information is gathered, then what the platform does is it predicts possible eventualities, possible failure points, possible risk that the customers workers are getting exposed into. I think this is one of the classical and then very beautiful example of how a combination of IoT and then artificial intelligence machine things came into play and then deliver a phenomenal impact.
So looking into the future, when do you think IoT will really transform the way we live and produce?
I think the time is already now. The three frictions which were standing against AI and then IoT to come and do a benefitful impact have been significantly solved now. So the number one friction, the network congestion. The number two friction, converting petabytes of data into intelligence. The number three friction around security. These have been phenomenally addressed, thanks to a lot of disruptive, innovative work. And I firmly believe the time for AI and then IoT is now.
Well, it's been great finding out more. You've given us a lot to think about. So Senthil Ravindran from Virtusa, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Thanks, Alistair.